Hello, my name is Lizzie, and this is Lizzie's Literary Life, and today I'm going to be taking you through everything that happened during Squash That series. So, Squash That series is a readathon hosted by Bailey from Is Bailey Reading and Kayla from Kayla Ray Reads. And the round that just finished was the tournament round, which was a 5.5 week long readathon tournament bracket where we started with 33 competitors and ended with one winner. And it was crazy. It was awesome. And I talked about it a lot before it happened, preparing for it. And then I attempted to vlog and it didn't really happen. So I'm just doing this wrap up. Instead, I'm going to take you through each week, everything that I read, everything that happened, when I won, when I lost, which was most of the time. Well, not really. You'll see. So, jumping right in, starting with qualifying. So the first 2 days, January 1st and January 2nd, were qualifying, where in order to get on the board, on the bracket, you had to read, or the goal was to read for 6 hours and 500 pages. So you had to reach both of those goals to qualify. But then even people who didn't reach those goals, whoever was closest got on the board in that order, if that makes sense. But I did qualify. I worked on 2 books, Disney and Shadow, which is Kingdom Keepers number 3, and Royal Assassin, which is the Farseer trilogy number 2. My strategy was to get my pages up first by reading a really fast but long middle grade, which was Disney and Shadow. And then once I got the 500 pages or got close to the 500 pages, I wanted to put an audiobook on to get the rest of the hours. So that's how I used Royal Assassin. And I did not finish either of those books because books that you read during qualifying, if you finish them, they don't count for any points or anything. But if you save them to finish during an actual week with prompts, or where finishing books does stuff for you, then it was helpful. So I qualified. I finished both my objectives at 8:27 p.m. on January 1st. I was the 10th person to qualify, so I was in the 10th position on the board. And I'm pretty proud of that. I think that's pretty solid. I qualified on the first day, and I think my strategy was solid too. It was a pretty easy going situation to qualify, actually. With a lot of people struggled to get their pages up. They got to their hours way before they got to their pages. But because I was reading the Kingdom Keepers book, which is such a quick, short middle grade, it just flew by. And then week 1, we ended up, so each week we spun a wheel to see what game we would be playing that week, which one of the previous Squash That series rounds we would be replaying for that week. And what we got for week 1 was the 24 and 48. So in this week, the goal was literally just to read as many hours as possible. And again, finishing books was not actually that beneficial this week, because if you just got close to the end of books, then you could finish them the following week and get points for kind of both weeks, if that makes sense. So I worked on a lot of books and did not finish any. But this week, week 1, I was against Danielle from Danielle Reads, who is a bestie of mine, so that was stressful in itself. As soon as I qualified and realized, because I had access to the spreadsheet because I was helping out with spreadsheet stuff, as soon as I realized I was against Danielle, I was like, oh no. But it was fine. So the books I worked on, I continued to work on Royal Assassin, European Travel for the Monstrous Gentlewoman, which is the Athena Club book number 2, 9 Liars, Truly Devious number 5, A Perilous Undertaking, Veronica Speedwell number 2, Heaven and Earth, which is Three Sisters Island number 2, and A Close and Common Orbit, which is Wayfarers number 2. So those were the books that I worked on, but I didn't finish any of them. I read for a total of 39.51 hours total over the week, which I feel is a lot for a regular working week with a full-time job. But I did lose to Danielle, so she read 42 hours. So I lost by 2.09 hours, or 2 hours and 5 minutes. And it's kind of frustrating because I feel I totally could have gone harder, especially because that was the week, like over the weekend of that week, because weeks go Wednesday to Tuesday. Over the weekend of that week, I like got engaged. So if I had not gotten engaged that week, I probably maybe would have won, because that took up some hours on my Sunday. But you know, it's worth it. It's worth it. So here's my ring. Can you see it? Anyway, it's pretty. Didn't really show up well on the camera, but it's very pretty. Yeah, so that's what happened week 1. And then I became Danielle's cheerleader. So I was Danielle's first cheerleader. And as a cheerleader, you read books, you play the game, and whatever you read supports the active player, Danielle's reading. So you're kind of helping the person that you lost to win more times. The next week, week 2, Danielle and I were against Lindsay Nicole, whose cheerleader was Pages with Paige. So we were, at this point, pretty much everyone had one cheerleader. So it was one active player and one cheerleader. There was one team that had 2 cheerleaders because there was 33 people that qualified and only 32 spots on the bracket. So one person started out as a cheerleader. But week 2, we spun the teams round. The teams round was crazy. That was the first one I participated in as a Squash That Series player, like in the previous round, and it was so much fun. And so it was fun to replay it, but the teams were only teams of 2. So that I kind of wish it had come up later, but that's okay. Because we were a team. The active players' points counted for double, and the cheerleaders' points just counted regular. And there were positive points that you could earn based on the length of the book, and then negative points that you could take away from the other team based on different prompts like finish a series, own sequel, that kind of thing. So I finished all of the books that I had previously been working on. So we're going to run through real quick the books I finished and their ratings. So Royal Assassin, I gave 4 stars. And again, I haven't said this yet, so not again. But I did do a wrap up for the month, like a monthly wrap up for January, and I'll do one for February like I always do. So if you want more details on what I actually thought of these books, then the January wrap up is the place to go. I'll link it here, one of them. I'll link it, and then the February wrap up will be coming soon. And so the ones that I didn't finish in January from the end of this will be in that wrap up. So if you want more detailed thoughts, that's where to go. But here's just the rundown. So I finished Royal Assassin for 4 stars. European Travel for the Monstrous Gentlewoman was 3 stars. 9 Liars was 3.5 stars. A Perilous Undertaking was 2.5 stars. Heaven and Earth was 1.5 stars. Those I all finished like right in a row on the first day because I had gotten basically to the end of each of them during the 24 and 48 rounds. So it was just like, listen to the last 10 minutes and submit it. I also finished Disney in Shadow. That was 3 stars. A Close and Common Orbit was 4.5 stars. And then I read A Magic Treehouse, A Crazy Day with Cobras, and that was 4 stars. So that's what I read during the teams round. And I personally earned 1,225 points. That's positive and negative points added together, like as a positive total. So the absolute value of the total. And the team, Danielle and I ended with 1,175 points, which beat Lindsay Nicole. She had negative 475, so we won by a gap of 1,650. However, if I had not been there, and Pages with Paige, if there had been no cheerleaders, the gap would have only been 550. So I basically tripled the gap. So basically, I personally tripled the gap between our scores. That's what I'm taking from this. And then week three was the blink and you'll miss it week. We spun Tier. And Tier was the very first Squash That Series round. So I didn't participate in it. I didn't know Bailey and Kayla at this point. But it was basically, there were 10 prompts. There are 10 prompts, and it was the first team or person, the first active player to get to 10 prompts, all 10 prompts, won. And the cheerleaders, as the cheerleaders collectively earned more prompts, then the active player got to cross off one prompt or 2 prompts from their list. So cheerleaders were working together to make it so the active player didn't have to do all 10. But Danielle did all 10. So we were against Pris, and Pris is a power reader. So we were like freaking out a lot. And so Danielle just like read and did not stop. So I ended up reading one book and it didn't even really help, I don't think, because you needed to get to like an average of 3 to even get one prompt off for Danielle, but for the active player. But I did read Dogs in the Dead of Night, which is Magic Treehouse number 18 for randomized series. So I randomized my series and I got Magic Treehouse and I was like, that's easy. And that was a 4-star read, 4-star Magic Treehouse. So Danielle was almost there. She needed like one more. And I was nearly done with Anne of Avonlea, the Anne of Green Gables book, number 2. And I was like literally like 20 minutes away from finishing. And that would have gotten Danielle the last prompt. But then I had a meeting and I was like, I'd forgotten that I had this meeting. And I was like, Danielle, I've got you 20 more minutes. You'll get that we'll win. And then I was like, oh wait, I have a meeting in 10 minutes and I cannot finish this audiobook right now. So Danielle ended up like panicking and just reading another book while I was in my meeting. So Danielle won at 3:14 p.m. EST on Wednesday the 17th, which was the first day of competition. So it started at midnight or 1 a.m. EST, and she finished by 3 p.m., which is while I was in my meeting. I barely helped. Honestly, Danielle just crushed it. That's just what happened. She crushed it. I barely helped. But we beat Pris and advanced. So that's crazy. This was honestly, it was a crazy, crazy day. And then the rest of the week, we were just like kind of chilling, prepping other books. And then Saturday of that week was challenge day. So I worked on 4 books during challenge day, mostly books I was trying to prep for future weeks. So I worked on Guards, which is Discworld number 8, which I was prepping for Traffic Light. Traffic Light we'll get to. I worked on Authority, which is Southern Reach number 2. Continued to work on Anne of Avonlea, but as I said, I was like very close to the end, and the only reason I read that during challenge day was because we got a prompt for read the book that you're closest to the end in, and I was like, oh no, like I have to read Anne of Avonlea, but I can't finish it because that's going to waste the book, and I ended up getting like 3 minutes from the end. And then The Man Who Died Twice, Thursday Murder Club number 2, I also worked on. I did succeed in all 12 challenges. The way challenge day works is every hour from like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. there is a new challenge that's like, examples are like read out loud. That was a fun one to do first thing in the morning, or read on the floor, or read until you see a color, or read the book that you're the closest to the end in, that kind of thing. And you have to do it within the hour. So I was locked in all day, and I did all 12 challenges. And those challenges earned the team points, which we then could redeem. So if you got 50 points, you could get a random person from the other team to be your bonus cheerleader and like to cheerlead to work towards your team as well as the other team. And if you got to 70 points, you got to pick who you wanted as your bonus cheerleader. And Team Danielle only got to 60 points. So we got a randomly selected cheerleader, which was Ruby from Ruby Red, who is another bestie of mine. So we did not get to personally select, but Ruby's a great choice. So it's okay. Week 4, we spun the game board, which I'm so glad we did because this was super, super fun to play. I didn't get to play the first time because it was before I was really aware of it, of Squash That series, so it was really fun to play game board. And Team Danielle, was against Natalie from Nat Cat's Bookish Cafe. And it was a game board. I'll maybe pop it on. No, I'm not going to. I don't feel like doing fancy editing for this one. I'm not putting the book covers up. You're just going to listen to me talk. And that's fine. So there. You probably, if you're watching this, you probably participated and know what the game board looks like anyway. So there was like a game board, Candyland style. You roll a die, you go that many spaces, you get a prompt. that kind of situation. So the first book I finished was Anne of Avonlea for the prompt Flowers on the Cover, which was 4 stars. And then I landed on series you were caught up on. So I read Iris Kelly Doesn't Date for 4.5 stars. And it was 4.5 stars is what I mean, rating. And then I landed on randomized series and I got Heartstopper. And so I read volume 5 and volume 1 because they were too short to count on their own. So volume 5 was 3 stars, volume 1 was 3.5 stars. And then I rolled a 5, which got me to a sending you back space. So I got back to randomize and had to randomize again. And I got Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, which was a reread book 1. And that was 3.5 stars. And the other mechanic, so first off, Danielle finished the board and therefore won at 12:09 EST on Thursday the 25th. So basically Wednesday night. Wednesday's the first day of the challenge. She won about 24 hours after the challenge started, which is awesome. Danielle just keeps on crushing it. But then the cheerleaders continued playing because there were these stars, and as you passed a star, you collected the star. And the stars, while the active player was playing, were helpful for moving prompts back and forth. But at the end of the week, we decided, since everyone finished so fast, that the cheerleaders would continue collecting stars, and then we could redeem those stars at the end of the week for bonuses for the following week. So we ended up, as a group, collecting 77 stars. I collected I should have written this down. I collected 7 or something. But we redeemed those stars for bonus cheerleaders, for 4 bonus cheerleaders. So we personally selected 3 bonus cheerleaders and then randomly selected a final one. We decided that was the route we were going in terms of advantages. There was a bunch of different advantages. We decided we just wanted bonus cheerleaders, and I think it was probably a good choice. And then the final week. We spun Traffic Light, and Danielle, who I have been cheerleading for since week 2, since I lost in week 1, I've been Danielle's cheerleader. And Danielle was up against Catherine 95, and we spun Traffic Light. And Traffic Light, the point is that you read books that are really far along in series. So that's why I was reading that Discworld book, because it was number 8. That would get me 8 points. Unfortunately, I did end up DNFing it. And the tragic thing is that I was like, I just don't want to read this. And so I DNF'd it. I returned it to the library. And then I said I DNF'd it. And Bailey reminded me that if you get to 50%, you can count a DNF. And so I was like, maybe I did get to 50% because I can't keep going because I returned it to the library. And I looked and I was at 47%. So that was just wasted. Tragic. But I did finish Authority, which is number 2 in the Southern Reach series, and I gave that 2.5 stars. I finished 4 Magic Treehouse books, which were only half a point each because they were less than an hour long reads. They didn't count as 19, 20, 21, 22 points because they were so short. But I gave those some star ratings. It's fine. And then I finished Catherine Howard, The Scandalous Queen, which is number 5 in the 6 Tudor Queen series. I gave that 4 stars, meaning that I earned 9 points overall, which, because of the averaging of how cheerleaders worked, only contributed 0.225 points towards Danielle's total, which is not great, but that's okay. But Danielle, all week, Danielle was behind. There were points updates, and Danielle was behind every single time. And I was watching the spreadsheet, watching the gap get smaller and smaller and smaller. And the final points update, Catherine was still ahead. And then, at the end, Danielle won. So Danielle won with 123.44 points over Catherine's 121.15. So only a 2.29 point difference, which is crazy. So it really shows that my tiny contribution helped because it was so close. So that's insane. And that was the final week. So overall, I finished 20 books, including the Magic Tree Houses. I only finished 1 series, and that was the Bright Falls series with Iris Kelly Doesn't Date. I caught up on 2 series, Heartstopper and Truly Devious. I continued 11 series. I restarted 1 series, which was Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I only lost once, and it was to the winner in week 1. And I had a blast. So that was a whirlwind of my wrap-up of Squash That series, but I had so much fun. I read so much. I squashed those series, and I just had the best time, and Danielle absolutely crushed it, and I am so honored to be her very first cheerleader. So, yeah. If you participated in Squash That series, comment down below and let me know what your experience was like, and if not, you should join next time, because this is an ongoing readathon. It's not going to be this crazy every single time, but we still have more rounds planned for the future, and it's going to be so fun. So definitely join next time, and comment down below whether you would be interested in joining, and what series you have to catch up on that are priorities for you this year. So give me a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one coming very soon.